Owning a home is full of surprises. Some wonderful, some not so much. And when something breaks, it can feel like the whole day unravels. That's why HomeServe exists. For as little as $4.99 a month, you'll always have someone to call. A trusted professional ready to help, bringing peace of mind to 4.5 million homeowners nationwide. For plans starting at just $4.99 a month, go to homeserve.com. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs.
Welcome to Under One Roof MTL, where we are demystifying home ownership 1 week at a time. My name is Robin Flynn, joined as always by LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties. Good afternoon, LJ.
Good afternoon. How you doing, Robin?
Very well, thank you. Also joined as usual by Fred Pichette and Martin Spalding of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Robin.
Hey, Robin. How's it going?
Very, very good. I'm in a great mood, so let's give away some cookies, shall we? Our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. The first person to text in the correct response to 514-790-0800 will receive cookies from Felix and Norton delivered straight to their door. Our question this week, what is a bridge loan? 514-790-0800. What is a bridge loan? Please include your name, and we'll give the answer and announce the winner at the end of the show. What is in the news this week, Martin? I know that you are tracking bond yields. Always. 24 hours a day. You've got push notifications turned on your phone.
Yeah.
What is going on with bond yields this week? And why are...
I think you're exaggerating there a little, Robin. There. Okay, so the bond market, and we often talk about the bond market. So we talk about the Bank of Canada when it comes to variable rates, and we talk about the bond market when it comes to fixed rates. So what's really going on with fixed rate mortgages right now? Over the past few weeks, we've seen an increase in fixed rates, and it all comes down to one thing, the bond market. So specifically, the 5-year Government of Canada bond yield, which is what lenders use to fix their rates. That yield has jumped to around 3.2%, up more than 0.5% in about a month. And when that happens, we see lenders react. And what we're seeing, and we actually got a couple of rate increase announcement this week in the range of 20 to 30 basis points. And I'm afraid to say there's probably more to come. So your next question, Robin, what's driving this? Markets are
Yes.
worried about inflation. They're worried about rising oil prices tied to geopolitics and the possibility, I know everyone's sitting down, the Bank of Canada may raise instead of lower rates. So when inflation risk goes up, bond yields go up, and fixed rate mortgages also go up. So where are we heading? In short, expect volatility. We may see small pullbacks if the markets calm down, but the general trend right now is upward pressure or at best sideways. In other words, don't expect fixed rates to drop back to where they were earlier this year. So if you're a borrower, what does this mean for you? 3 things, and we're doing a ton of these right now. If you have a rate hold, you're in a great position. If you're shopping now, consider getting a rate hold. You've absolutely nothing to lose. And interestingly enough, all this is making variable rate mortgages more attractive if you can stomach the uncertainty. I know I can't, but Fred can. And
Yeah.
my final little commentary this morning, don't go and look at your stock portfolio because it's looking pretty grim right now.
Yeah, I was going to loop Fred into this to ask, what would you do right now, Fred? Would you opt
Wow.
for a fixed rate, which they're going up? Would you opt for a variable rate? Martin said the Bank of Canada may increase rates, so maybe your variable rate will increase. It sounds like a lose-lose.
Well, I think variable rate could be a very valuable option for someone who really looking to, let's say, lock his rate for the next 5 years and having option of probably converting later on because the spread between the prime rate of Canada and the discount that the bank offered is pretty good right now. I see a -6, -7, -8, -90 from the prime, which is obviously, if you're not comfortable, as Martin says, go with the fix. But I'm a kind of I like the variable rate to be quite honest. I like to gamble a little bit in the good way. I don't like to risk too much, but I think it's a good risk to take right now to go potentially variable and maybe waiting that potentially after the war or after the economy is back, that fixed rate would probably go back down a little bit, which is that could be an option.
If there's anything I've learned from doing the show with you guys, is that historically variable rates are the better bet. You will end up paying less if you go with a variable rate, right?
Well, I think yes, you're right. But if you analyze the last 5 years, probably not. But if you analyze the last 30 years, obviously the variable rate set below the fixed rate for the last 30 years, but not in the last 5 years, obviously.
Overall, definitely, I think that we've seen variable rates be the cheaper option over the long run, but I think we have a short-term memory, and I think a lot of us are still feeling the pain from the last couple of years with the variable roller coaster that we were on. So I think I've seen a couple different rates, right? I think really depends if you're insured versus not. But how low of a rate are you seeing on variable right now? Is it in like 3.7, 3.8 range? What kind of discounts are we seeing on prime?
Well, I think LJ we could get easily 445 minus 80. That's potentially what it is. Depends on the lender. Obviously, some of the bank reduced the discount
Sure. But minus 80, that'll
lately.
put you at 3.65 right now, right? So if we compare that to maybe the 4.2 that you're seeing on the fixed rate right now because the bond shot up this year or this week, pardon me, it seems to price in obviously a decent amount of cushion there. And as we discussed previously on the show, you can always go with variable up front. And then if the fixed rate comes back down, you have the option of locking in a fixed rate for the remainder of your term if it comes down to an amount that you're more comfortable with, obviously. Now, again, there's obviously risk with any option. Everything is a gamble. There's pros and cons to both sides of it. But I think with the spread that we're seeing today, it's finally starting to make more sense to kind of go down that road because you have that cushion built in. And there's so much instability in the market that, yes, there's probably going to be some inflation coming our way due to the war right now. But how much inflation can Canada really take right now with everything going on is the next question. And therefore, how much runway of these rates to increase are we really going to see? Only time will tell as we continue to discuss on this show.
I just can't believe that we're using the word war and mortgage rates in the same sentence.
Yeah, well,
I mean, come on. I mean, there's a war in the Gulf and it's affecting our mortgage rates here back in Canada.
Welcome
Horrible.
to
It's
2026.
horrible.
I do want to talk about something that was in the news locally this week. Quebec's Housing Tribunal, the TAL, ruled this week that the no pet clauses that are very, very common in residential leases actually violate charter rights. So, what does this mean exactly? LJ, does this mean that basically a landlord can't refuse to sign you to a lease if you have a dog?
It doesn't currently invalidate all the clauses that are like that, but it is looking like people are no longer going to be able to put that clause into leases. Now, this is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out because most landlords don't have a problem with pets. Most landlords have a problems with the nuisances that pets can bring forth, whether that comes from barking, from disturbing other tenants, from disturbing the peace in general, from landlords that don't clean up after their pets, and therefore we have droppings and stuff of that nature. Maybe they're even peeing on the side of the building that's bothering other people. Maybe destroying some of the plants or the vegetation around the property, and then above and beyond all that, you've got people who have multiple pets and who just don't take good care of them, unfortunately, and then the floors start to get beat up and scratched, or they let the cats start destroying the baseboards and the sides of the walls. And because the rental rates have been pretty low historically in Montreal, if a landlord were to go to a tenant after, because this is no longer normal wear and tear, right? This goes beyond the standard normal wear and tear, and say, hey, it's going to cost $3,000 to fix all this. The tenants didn't typically have the funds to cover that. And now we find ourselves in a position to try and figure out, well, now I have to go to the rental board and open up a case against you, and then I possibly have to take you to small claims or get a collection agency to go collect these funds against you. And that was really the slippery slope that most landlords wanted to avoid. It's never been oh, I don't like pets, or no, it's the problems that come associated to this due to poor management from the tenants typically. Because once we get into higher end stuff, to be honest, and the rental rates are higher, a lot of the time pets are fine because the landlords no longer fear collecting for any damage or anything that were to come forth. So this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Like with every law in Quebec, I'm curious to see what the next loopholes are going to be to this, how people are going to reorganize their thoughts and their leases and what's going to be what. But we've seen more and more people do this over the years because we have companion dogs and people who have medical notes that require this, and therefore you can't avoid the or put a no pet clause. So this is going to be something to watch how it develops over the next couple of weeks, months, and even years because I feel there's going to be a lot of moving parts here.
So, one comment here. I have to agree with LJ. Often the pet is not the problem, it's the pet owner. But I also, from the landlord point of view, shouldn't I have the right to decide who I rent my property to? I mean, I made the investment. I'm the one who's up at bat. I'm the one with the mortgage. I'm the one who have to take care of the property
With the
before and
risk.
after the tenant moves in. I'm the one at risk. Shouldn't I have the right to say, no, you know what? I would rather have a pet-free environment, or I'd be able to actually decide whether or not I want to accept a renter with a pet.
This is going to have downward repercussions in the sense that even if you go on Facebook Marketplace, for example, when people are selling items, they'll even mark that this item has been in a pet-free, smoke-free environment. This is a very common terminology used. And when we're talking about a property now, obviously it's not as common, but nevertheless, if your property hasn't had smoking in it and it hasn't had pets in it, you don't have hair accumulation, you don't have the same wear and tear, you don't have possibly potty training that happened in this apartment and damage that may have happened like that. You might have had some mold, moisture, humidity below the floorboards because of this originally. They may have just fixed the top, but never actually fixed the bottom. And the owner or landlord might have no idea because he never was told that the animal was being potty trained in here and the damage was there. The tenant fixed it up before the landlord ever found out. And the landlord could even find himself in a legal warranty case with mold underneath a floorboard that he never knew about. He sold the property with legal warranty because he thought that everything was normal and that everything was above board. Even though if you've been renting out your property, you should more than likely sell it without legal warranty because you don't know what's happened in the property. You've lost that perspective, obviously. But I'm very curious to see how this is going to go down on this because of all the other things that this is going to impact in this decision and obviously resale and everything else.
Okay, one last little comment. I love pets. I love dogs. I love cat. I spent 8 years on a farm, so all of it. But where does it end? So I have an issue now because I'm allergic to cats. So sometimes when I take a flight, someone shows up with their cat and they put it at my feet, and then I end up sneezing the entire flight because someone wants to bring their cat on a flight.
I have a
Where
story about
does
that
it
after the
end?
break. I have a story about that.
That is the perfect tease right there. LJ will share his story about that after the break. In addition, if you're getting ready to sell your house, he has some advice for you so that you don't lose your mind in the process. That's coming up after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL. I'm Robin. That's Fred. That's Martin. That is LJ. We're with you until 1 p.m. Living through the sale of your home. How do you prepare? How do you get yourself, your home, and your family ready for showings? Before we get to that, though, LJ, I want to hear this story. Martin was talking before we went to traffic about, cats on flights, and he's allergic to cats and how uncomfortable that makes flights for him. What's your story?
Well, we're having allergies to pets become more and more of a reality. Honestly, I didn't used to hear about it as much growing up, but lately, just about every person you encounter has some sort of allergy to a pet. And cat allergies is one of the most common ones. I've seen it with a lot of brokers, I've seen it with a lot of clients and people who are visiting our listings and everything in between. And recently, we actually had a situation where there was a cat at the property that we were showing, it was our listing, and the buyer didn't want to come in. The buyer was deadly afraid of cats and was very, very nervous at the idea. There's probably some sort of phobia going on there, obviously. And it was to the point that we were about to lose a showing. And we were able to say, you know what, we're going to try and manage the cat here. We're going to keep them in this area of the home. But a cat's cat. A cat's going to go wherever the cat wants to go. And it's typically going to go exactly where you don't want it to go. So at one point, it kind of bolted towards the bedrooms where the people were. And this visitor obviously saw the cat and beeline straight out of the house. And the visit ended there. So if you are looking to sell your home and you do have pets, no matter how friendly, cuddly, sweet, passive they are, people have allergies, people have phobias, people have all sorts of things. And this could effectively be a blocker when trying to sell your home, which also segues into our segment right now, obviously. But keep that in mind. If you do have them, getting them out of the house might actually be the only way to prevent anything like this. And again, it's not going to help too much with allergies because people are still going to see the hair and the smell and whatnot, but it will at least prevent phobias. And if the cat isn't present, it'll probably help with the allergies as well during the visit.
I mean, I'm at the point where if we get invited to dinner at someone's house, I have to ask, do you have a cat? And if you have a cat, I'll go, you know what? Why don't I treat you to a nice restaurant meal?
Do you have a cat and do you have carpet? Because cats in homes with hardwood floors, as long as they've swept, usually it's a little bit more tolerable than if they've got, wall to wall carpeting and that cat hair and dander is
Ugh.
embedded in the floors. Okay, so that's one of the things that obviously makes selling a home difficult is when you've got pets. Dogs are a little bit easier to manage. They tend to be well trained for the most part. You can get them in and out of the house easily. Cats, man, they just hide under everything and it's impossible to get them out the door. So if you have pets, you need to have some sort of plan in place, don't you?
Hold on, hold on.
100%.
Before LJ starts, let's hear Fred about a cat story, or let's hear about Fred's dog because we
Yeah,
often hear him
exactly.
barking.
Martin knows I'm a dog lover and I have a big dog at home. And swear to God, guys, as much as I hear everybody scare about cats, dogs, and all this, I would say it's not that bad. Like for me, it's like not exactly like a kid, but if you take care of your dog, you walk your dog, you feed, you clean your house, it's not that bad. Like yes, people could be allergic, and could have some side effect. I agree. But if people that came to my house, they say, "Wow, what a beautiful dog! He's so nice and gentle." Like at the end of the day, I think it's a debate that we're not going to find a solution. To be quite honest.
I think sometimes if Fred had the choice of having kids, a wife, or a dog,
I'm not gonna go there. No.
Okay, LJ, when you've got pets in the home, you obviously need to be mindful of that if you're planning to sell your home. But beyond, pets, what should sellers do to prepare? Because when you're having an open house or a viewings, there's almost like a checklist you need to have in place.
There's a whole checklist, and that's exactly what we send our clients. We even have videos kind of lined up with how to prepare your home with a before and after as to what our expectations are and what's going to make your property show ready. But ultimately, it comes down to the fundamentals of we're looking to declutter the space as much as possible. We really want to depersonalize. We want to remove as many personal photos. We want to get rid of anything that's overwhelming, overbearing. We want people to really be able to focus on the property itself, not on the stuff around the property. So if you have, I met with clients earlier this week and they said, LJ, we have 36 plants in a 550 square foot condo. I said, we're going to have to remove some of these plants. That's too many for a 550 square foot condo. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure it's like an Amazon jungle. I'm sure it's fantastic. But I need people to make sure that they're visiting a condo and not stopping by the biosphere, one of these natural vegetation plates, right? So this is one of the things that we're really going to focus on, making sure that there's clean linens, made beds, not if you sleep with 50 pillows, that's way too many, right? We need to have maybe 3, 5 throw pillows, two on the couch. If you have 17, again, way too many. We really got to bring everything back down to the basics. Make sure the property's clean. A deep clean is super important. All the areas that you might skip in your weekly cleaning, so around the baseboards, the floorboards, the corners, making sure there's no cobwebs in the kind of corners that you don't go to regularly. Changing all the faulty light bulbs that you probably overlooked because you just get used to living in your space. And I got one here, so it doesn't matter that the one over there isn't working. Um, but decluttering, depersonalizing, deep cleans are really the first three things. After that, we can get into more in-depth staging as necessary. But to be quite honest, most properties, if you can do those first three things, the staging doesn't matter as much. Obviously, it's case by case. Some properties definitely need it. And then after that, one of the big things that we talk about is paint. If we're selling a turnkey product and it hasn't been paid in 10 years and it's been lived in for 10 years, so there's scuff marks here and there, that's going to hurt. If we're selling a renovator's project, obviously the paint isn't going to matter as much. But if we are going for that turnkey value, then we got to make sure we're presenting a turnkey property. So that's where paint is going to be super important along with everything else. And these things are pretty cost effective. You can either do it yourself, you can hire somebody to do it with you. It's time efficient as well. And then from there, off we go.
How different is it to prepare for a viewing, for example, compared to an open house? An open house, you have a set date, there's gonna be tons of people coming in. Obviously, you're gonna clean as if the Queen of England or the King of England is coming to visit. But when you've got viewings, those tend to be one off here and there. You're living in your property most of the time. You've got kids, you've got your life going on. Is there, I don't know, maybe some baskets you can buy to quickly hide all the kids' toys or things like that that would maybe make it a little bit easier on families for viewings?
Yes. So look, open house, I would say, is definitely gonna be as close to the photo standard as possible. And photo is really, we want immaculate. We want these photos, which is going to be the first impression your property is going to make online to every single potential buyer, to look incredible. After that, for viewings, we want a clean space. We want a neat space. Obviously, we understand the home is lived in. Sometimes we have 24-hour notice, sometimes maybe a little bit less, but we don't usually have 3, 4 days notice, obviously, to prepare and declutter even more so. So there is a level of acceptability here, and it comes down to what's feasible for you. You know, if you have young kids, preparing a home is a lot more difficult than if you're a young couple that doesn't have kids. If you have pets, this also adds a layer of complexity. If you travel a lot for work, making sure that you've kind of cleaned it up and left it neat before you left on that business trip is super important as well. So for regular visits, we want a kind of declutter as much as possible, but understand that we live in the space. When we're going open house or photos, we really want the house is almost unrecognizable, if you will, with you're removing everything off the countertops. We're putting stuff into storage, into bins, hiding it for the photos, kind of getting it all organized, filling your car possibly if you really do have a lot of stuff during these showings. During visits, the coffee machine stays out. You know, if you have a blender on the countertop, pardon me, it's okay. These things are less important because we understand the home is lived in, but really making sure that it is clean. Obviously, beds are made, dirty clothes and laundry is put aside. Everything's where it needs to be. That'll be super helpful.
What about baking bread and baking cookies while the visits are taking place and turning on your fireplaces, even if it's in the middle of summer?
So I wouldn't turn on a fireplace if it's in the middle of summer. I would put maybe some accent candles if you want, but I wouldn't go down the road of lighting your fireplace in that sense. Look, the smell of fresh cookies makes everyone's heart melt, I would say. So if you want to put a little bit of Pillsbury in the oven and get that going, there's never any harm that's going to come from that. Bread is one that we hear a lot less often, to be honest, because even though fresh bread does smell delicious, and I would agree with that, I think that the cookies has a much larger impact. So once you're going down that road, and making cookies is usually easier than making bread, so I would go down that road as well. But all those things help. But again, making sure that your home does have a relatively neutral or an inviting smell is important as well. You know, so not
Uh,
using crazy strong cleaning products. We want clean, but we don't want overpowering. Is really we want people to be able to come in and really feel like they can make it their own.
If you're not sure if now is the right time to sell your home, you're looking for some advice, you're worried about staging and getting everything in tip top shape because you got kids, you got pets, you got a life happens. Give LJ and his team a call. They'll help you figure it all out. 514 540 40. He'll help you figure it all out. Coming up, Fred and Martin are talking about reverse mortgages and how to use your home's equity strategically. That's coming up after the news. This is Under One Roof MTL. I'm Robin. That's LJ. That's Fred. That is Martin. We are talking about reverse mortgages, using your home equity strategically so that your home can become your biggest financial tool. Because if you're not careful, it could become your biggest mistake. Fred, Martin, why is the popularity of reverse mortgages increasing? I feel like this is something we're hearing people discuss more and more and more.
So let's go back. So this is part two of our conversation. Last week we talked about refinancing, using your home, um, using your home to consolidate high interest debt into something that's more manageable. Today we decide to tackle because it's based in equity as well. We're talking about reverse mortgages. So Fred and I are seeing a real increase, more calls, more questions, more files. And why? Because the Canadian population is getting older. We now have a massive group of homeowners age 55 plus. Many of them are entering retirement with limited fixed income. Like everyone, they're dealing with rising costs, and a lot of their wealth is tied into their home. So people bought homes 20 years ago for $200,000. They're now worth 800 to a million. On paper, they're wealthy, but in reality, many are cash poor. So people have equity, but they can't spend it. You can't buy groceries with equity unless you unlock it. And that's where a reverse mortgage comes in. You can convert that equity into usable cash without having to sell the home.
Fred, what are some of the pros and cons of a reverse mortgage?
Well, obviously, it is a great product if you run out a bit of saving. And obviously, think about it living on QPP, Quebec Pension Plan, and the whole age, it's great, but it's 50, anywhere between 14 and 15,000 per year. You're not going to go far with that, like as Martin says, a lot of people are, there's a bit short in saving, or it's a taxable income when you withdraw some savings. Um, and when you tab to your house, the equity of your house, it's tax free. which is it could really help you to live a better life. Number one, that's why most of people are asking for a reverse mortgage, and also they want to keep some savings. Like at the end of the day, tapping to your equity a little bit. It's if it's you spend it properly, it's fine. That's one of the pros. Obviously, you don't have to make any payment, which is very important as well. If you don't have to make your mortgage payment every month, that's liberate some cash flow. Um, obviously, it could cover medical care that you might need. It could cover expense. I just saw this week. It was funny, but one of our client has an insurance policy. It was costing him 4,000 the year before, and in 2025 it cost him 6,000. Like all those little increase plus inflation plus of that, there's a lot of elderly people that could run out of cash actually.
And I guess things can go wrong if you overextend yourself. I know reverse mortgages are a popular product for people who want to help their adult children to buy their first home, but you don't want to overextend yourself if you're unable to, do so.
Well, it's not like you won the lottery. You're using the equity in your house. So once you unlock the equity, you can't start spending it without a plan. In other words, don't start traveling like a mad person. Don't go out for expensive dinners. Don't buy expensive cars. And if you do want to help your kids, be reasonable because if you're tapping into the equity in your house, that means you've got a cash flow problem. If you start spending the equity in your home like a chicken with its head cut off, you're just going to run out of runway. And so, also, the other thing that you got to be careful of is not to tap into it too early because you're allowed to have a reverse mortgage. Obviously, it's a sliding scale to based on your age, how much equity you can pull out. But if you start using it at 55 and you plan to live till you're 90, you're going to run out of runway. So there's a huge difference between the age of 55 and say 70, because the earlier you start, the faster you'll use up your equity. And especially if you're using it to travel, to buy expensive dinners, to help your kids, to buy the new car, to get a cottage, to rent things during the summer, you're just going to run out. So it's got to be used strategically. And whereas it used to be a bailout, a lot of financial advisors are now recommending it, but with a plan.
Having that plan is one of the most important aspects, I would imagine. And to create that plan, it starts with a conversation. Now, I know you mentioned, Fred, Martin, you guys get more and more calls from people who are 55 plus who are considering reverse mortgages as an option. What does that conversation look like? What are some of the questions that you would ask these clients?
So the first thing when we do is, can this person still qualify for a mortgage? Can this person still qualify for a HELOC? So maybe if they can afford to pay a regular mortgage or afford to um, use a HELOC properly, we tell them delay. Delay as long as you can before you start tapping into your equity because you don't know how long you're going to live for. And also, when does it really make sense? And that's one of the questions we ask. So, when it's used properly, it can be very effective to eliminate that financial stress that Fred was mentioning in retirement. It can supplement your income gap. So all of a sudden, you're making $75 to $100,000 a year as an employee. Boom, there's no pension attached to the job they used to have, and now you're trying to live on your savings. You're trying to live on QPP, and you're trying to live on old age. And the end of the month comes really quickly, and you just have a cash flow crunch. So it can help supplement your income, not replace your income. It also allows you to age in place. You don't have to sell the house. You can use the equity to pay the municipal school taxes, to pay the upkeep. Those are some of the rules attached to using a reverse mortgage properly. And also, it can delay you tapping in to your investments, into your RSP, into your RIF, because RSP, RIF, or investments, you'll pay capital gains. It'll increase your income. And as Fred mentioned, this money is income tax free. So when you're using the equity in your house, you're not going to pay tax on it as if you're using your RSP, your RIF, or whatever else. So used properly, it can bring stability to your lifestyle and a certain peace of mind. It's not there to change your lifestyle. It's there to extend your lifestyle, the lifestyle that you had when you were living in your house, when you were earning a salary. You're tapping into the equity to buy yourself some time.
And one thing you've spoken about quite a bit, Fred, is the importance of figuring out your budget. What are you spending each month? That's a very useful exercise to figure out what your actual needs are, areas that you can cut, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, actually, Robin, most of the people who ask for a reverse mortgage, it's because they have a needs, number one. And they live, usually they live on a low income, pension income, and they really need that little extra 2000 a month that they could tap to their equity to help them having a better life. And like Martin says, I think last week we did like three, three deals. People call us and says, okay, what's the situation? And most of them, they carry a little bit of debts and they have a hard time to pay their debts. And in the meantime, they have lots of equity and a very low income. Like when you're in that situation, it's time to think about a reverse mortgage compared to a line of credit that you obliged to pay the interest every month, which is and as Martin says, at 55 years old, it's probably not the right solution. But at 70, 75, 80 years old, it could be a great tool.
And it just goes to show how the market is shifting. Before we had two players in Quebec. We had all Home Equity Bank, which is the CHIP program, which is the well known of the reverse mortgage companies, and then we have Equitable Bank that also offer a reverse mortgage. But there's a third player coming into Quebec, and we think they're going to be in by midsummer. It's Home Trust. And why does that matter? Because more competition means potentially better pricing, more flexibility, and more options. But if a third player is coming into the market, that means there's a need. And whenever there's a need, there's more competition. More competition means it's better for the consumers.
To find out more about what your lending options are, to discuss whether a reverse mortgage could be right for you, get in touch with Fred and Martin. You can go to their website at fredandmartin.com and book a call with them directly there. Coming up, our property of the week, plus the answer to our trivia question of the week. What is a bridge loan? We'll have the answer for you after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. Wrapping up on Under One Roof MTL, and it's time for my favorite part of the show, our property of the week. I like to close my eyes and picture the space that LJ describes, see if it's a space that I could picture myself living in, and I challenge you to do the same. Close your eyes, listen to LJ's voice, and picture this beautiful, beautiful space.
Robin, it's
Are
all
you,
about the food. Tell the truth. It's all about the food.
are you looking for more space in the heart of Montreal? 320 Sherbrooke West is a stunning 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo with over 1,400 square feet, panoramic city views, an indoor garage, and a location steps from McGill, the Quartier des Spectacles, Mount Royal, and downtown's best restaurants and shops. Listed at $698,000, call us at 514-500-4040 to schedule your private tour. LJ Realty's trusted local results. For my go-to restaurants in the area, I'm going to throw it back to my McGill days and give a shout out to Chef on Call and Altos, two late-night staples in the area.
Altos, yes. Perfect for the McGill students. Love it. Wow, that's a huge condo, 1,400 square feet. That's bigger than
It's
my house.
so impressive how large this thing is. 3 bedrooms. It's been a rental for the last couple of years, so it definitely going to need a fresh coat of paint when you come in. But the location, it's a west exposure, so we get sunsets every single night. It's on the second floor, but even at that, we've been there during rush hour traffic. The soundproofing is incredible in the unit. You don't hear the street at all. It's honestly a very special unit.
Have you guys
Cool.
noticed that LJ changes his voice when he reads the description?
It's my radio voice.
Is that your radio voice? It
I love
sounds
it.
it
Okay,
just sounds so romantic when he reads the listing.
housing is romantic. When you have a beautiful space that you can sit. I remember when we first bought our house, sitting on my rocking chair on my front porch, having a coffee with the sun coming up in the morning. That is an incredible feeling. And you want to be able to picture yourself having moments like that in the space that you live in. Because we spend a lot of time in our homes, right? So you want it to be a space that you can enjoy, that you can romanticize a little bit. We all need to romanticize our lives a little bit more, I say. Let's get to the answer to our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. Our question this week was, what is a bridge loan? The answer, a bridge loan is a short-term temporary mortgage that bridges the financial gap between buying a new home and selling your current one. It allows homeowners to use their existing home equity to make a down payment on a new property before their current home sells. Did I get that right, Fred?
Yeah, you got it all right.
Perfect.
And here's one little recommendation though. Bridge
Yes.
loans are to be avoided as much as possible because they are very expensive.
Yeah.
Try not to put yourself in that kind of situation. And if you are in that situation, get some sound advice before you sign any contracts.
Yeah, keep things short term as much as possible when it comes to bridge loan. Congratulations to Joey in DDO for correctly answering our question. You'll be expecting some cookies from Felix and Norton delivered straight to your door. That pretty much does it for us for this week. It flies by every week. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this hour just flies by. If you want to ask the guys a question and have the answer featured on the show, you can email us at underoneroofmtl@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with LJ, Fred, and Martin individually for that one-on-one personalized advice. LJ, where do people go to get in touch with you?
You can check out our website, ljrealties.com. You can book a meet with me directly at meetwithlj.com. Super easy to go there. Loads up both of our calendars, and we can find a time that works. You can also find us on all socials with the handle LJ Aguinaga. That's LJAGUINAGA, or LJ Realties with an IES at the end. You can also call or text me at 514-500-4040. And as always, if you are looking to free up some of your time because you've got some investment properties and you know what, you just don't want to deal with snow removal or managing tenants or renewals or RL31s or everything that comes along with having a sound investment, reach out to our property management company, The Plex Doctor. We are going to take over and give you back your time as well as give you peace of mind so you can continue focusing on the things that you like. You can find us at plexdr.com, 514-709-6397.
Fred, where do people go to get in touch with you and Martin?
Well, they could reach out to our website, actually, fredandmartin.com. You could book a meeting with us over there, and we'll be more than happy to answer any mortgages question that you may have. If you're in a bad position and you may want to know what's the reverse mortgage, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to go to your house, explain you how it works, and see if it's the right fit for you. And if you have a mortgage to renew this year, it's worth the time to shop around a little bit and see what's the best for you for the next 5 years. Which is go to our website, fredandmartin.com, and book a meeting with us, or give us a call. Our phone number is there.
And you can also talk about the Habs with Fred. Fred, big Habs fan.
Oh
You can talk
yes.
about Jakob Dobesh's rookie season. I tied Patrick Waugh's 23 win. He's one away from Carey Price. Got Cole Caulfield's in the race for 50-goal season. When's the last time the Habs had a 50-goal scorer? There's so many
Oh,
exciting things to talk about.
this season is pretty exciting. I gotta
It
It's
say.
really
just so
is.
young and dynamic and fun to watch. It's exciting, and I can't even count how many games we've gone into overtime. And I believe we won 10 of
Oh,
them, but we've probably gone into at least 20 of them. So it's just every game keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Are you
reminds me of
saying
93.
ça sent la coupe? Ça sent la
Ça
coupe?
sent la coupe. Ça sent la coupe. Hey,
In Montreal,
1993,
it
the
always smells
Habs.
that way.
Well, that's what spring in Montreal smells like. Ça sent la coupe. If
Yeah.
you missed anything, by the way, you can listen to this show in its entirety on the iHeartRadio app. We're also on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a wonderful day.